Sunday, October 1st, 1939. The troops of the Third Reich enter Warsaw and begin to disarm the city's defenders. Meanwhile, two Polish cryptologists have managed to make it to Paris with two Enigma machines used by the Wehrmacht. Following the orders of their government in exile, they travel to the PC Bruno station on the outskirts of the French capital to work in collaboration with the Allies to decipher German messages as part of the Polish contribution to the struggle against the Nazis. In Britain, the government lowers the military recruitment age to 20 in an effort to increase numbers in the armed forces. Winston Churchill makes his first radio broadcast of the war, criticizing the Soviet Union's policy of cold self-interest in Poland. In Churchill's view, Russia has betrayed Poland. We could have wished that the Russian armies should be standing on their present line as the friends and allies of Poland instead of invaders, he laments, though he goes on to say that their standing on this line was clearly necessary for the safety of Russia against the Nazi menace. We must hunt them in their hideout, is the order that Donitz, the chief of the U-Boot-Waffe, gives to his submarine commanders in his strategy to win the sea war. He meets with Gunther Prien, the commander of U-47, and brings him up to date on Operation Baldur, the attack on the Royal Navy base at Scapa Flow. Prien agrees to carry out the plan designed by the meticulous frigate captain Victor Otto Ern. Monday, October 2nd. Attacked from land and sea, the Polish garrison at Hella Naval Base, commanded by Admiral Unruh, surrenders to the Germans. 3 Polish destroyers and some submarines have been able to slip through the German net and head for Britain. The few remaining forces of Polish resistance are centered on the River Bug and the city of Kock. Göring informs Hitler of Roosevelt's willingness to mediate with Britain to seek a peaceful solution. The Nazi leader announces he will make an offer to Britain in the Reichstag, although he warns that American merchant ships in international waters will be subject to searches by the German Navy. The British government sends RAF planes out on flights over German cities to drop leaflets in an effort to turn the people against Hitler. In Britain itself, meanwhile, special tribunals begin to deal with aliens from enemy countries in the London area, a task which is made more difficult by the arrival of refugees fleeing the war and Nazi persecution. In France, the French and Czech governments sign an agreement on the formation of a Czech national army in exile, in the hope of one day being able to reconquer the country. Delegates from 21 countries meet at the Pan American Conference in Panama City and establish a 300-mile, 480-kilometer security zone around the coasts of the United States and Latin America, forbidding any hostile action by the belligerent powers within the zone. Tuesday, October 3rd. In Poland, the few remaining focal points of resistance are being crushed. Units of the Polish army surrender near Lutsk, known to the Poles as Luk, an area of the Ukraine annexed by Poland after the First World War. The Soviets are especially brutal towards the defeated Poles. In France, the First Corps of the British Expeditionary Force takes up position on the Franco-Belgium border, while French troops do the same in advanced positions along the border with Germany. In London, meanwhile, the British government continues to hold secret talks with the Swedish businessman and friend of Hermann Göring, Birger Dallerus. But the Prime Minister, Neville Chamberlain, rejects German peace proposals, saying that Hitler's assurances and promises are worthless, and that Germany and the Soviet Union must first give Poland its independence back. Chamberlain is forced to call a temporary halt to the dropping of leaflets over German cities by the RAF, following protests by the Belgian, Danish, and Dutch governments concerning the violation of their airspace. In 1 month, the British pilots have dropped more than 30 million anti-Nazi leaflets over Germany. Wednesday, October 4th. In Poland, the Ukrainian Communist Party boss, Nikita Khrushchev, announces that the part of the country under Soviet rule will be subject to a process of communization. Hitler, meanwhile, orders the release of SS soldiers arrested by the German military authorities and held in Polish prisons in the part of the country occupied by the forces of the Third Reich, arguing that their excesses were a response to atrocities committed by the Poles. In the Sea War, the German submarine U-23, commanded by Otto Kretschmer, torpedoes and sinks the British merchant ship SS Glenfarne near the Orkney Islands. The destroyer HMS Firedrake picks up 16 survivors and lands them at Scapa Flow Naval Base. Meanwhile, U-35, commanded by Werner Lott, having torpedoed and sunk the Greek cargo ship SS Diamantis, lands members of the ship's crew on the coast of Kerry in southwest Ireland. In Britain, the incorporation into the army of more than 100,000 farm workers leads to 120,000 women taking their places on the farms to avoid a collapse in agricultural production. This new workforce is called the Women's Land Army and increases with the use of German and Italian prisoners of war for agricultural work. Thursday, October 5th. Hitler arrives in a ruined Warsaw to review the German victory parade. While Goebbels invites a group of foreign journalists to show the world the Polish capital following its capture by the forces of the Reich. Before returning to Berlin, the Führer tells the press to take a good look at this city. I assure you that my armies can do the same to any European capital. Under pressure from the Soviet Union, the Latvian government is forced to sign a treaty of mutual assistance, giving the Soviets the right to establish military bases in Latvia, including air bases and bases for the Soviet Navy in the country's Baltic harbors. The Baltic countries are facing the prospect of losing their independence, as the Nazi-Soviet pact recognizes Stalin's ambitions to extend his rule to Lithuania and even to a part of Finland in order to protect the city of Leningrad. Roosevelt, watching events in Europe with alarm, takes the decision to end American diplomatic efforts to persuade Germany to desist from aggression. The sea war intensifies with the German battleships Graf Spee and Deutschland acting with impunity close to Ascension Island in the Atlantic Ocean, halfway between the Americas and Africa.